Grey's Anatomy, the most iconic binge-worthy drama, is back, along with answers to the biggest cliffhangers. Will Teddy survive? Will Joe and Link finally find happiness together? Meredith returns along with fan faves like Arizona. You can now stream every episode of Grey's ever on Hulu, and new episodes next day. Watch the season premiere of Grey's Anatomy tonight at 9/8 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Little Wing is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm in a period of emotional upheaval.
Is that all the I don't care crap?
A little adventure.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna steal a bird from the Russian pigeon mafia.
Let's do it.
Goes a long way. Starring Brooklyn Prince with Kelly Riley and Brian Cox.
Life can hurt, but life is sweet.
Little Wing, rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. Now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Collin II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Refrigerator, Allen, and Carta.
Refrigerator Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he play for the Chicago Bears back in the 80s? Oh, wait, no, that was Refrigerator Perry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
Did you ever learn CPR when you were a kid?
I tried to, but I think I failed the thing because it was in health class when I was like a freshman in high school, and I think it was mainly just from nerves and anxiety. I think like if I actually had to perform it on someone now, I'd probably be able to do it. So I think the real reason I failed is just because I was like so nervous about other people watching me and all that kind of.
I took a babysitting course and to get certified as a babysitter when I was a kid.
Okay.
It was me and my friend Dan were the only guys in the class.
Okay.
So it was kind of weird, but I was like probably in like 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I was doing it because I was watching my sister after school a lot. Because back in the day, they thought it was cool to, let a 12-year-old watch their 8-year-old sister.
Exactly. Times have changed so much since then. About letting kids just stay at home at like the age of 12 or 13 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember it was crazy. A lot of the things that happened when we did that. Like my sister forgot her key one day and ended up trying to break into the house and cut her hand on the window because she broke a window to get out because I wasn't there right away or something. And yeah. Crazy stuff like that, but anyways, in that class we did have a CPR. They brought in Resuscitation Annie, and we or as they call it in the show that we're covering, Recessa Annie. Yeah, and we learned how to do CPR, and I was certified and everything. So yeah, I honestly don't think I've ever used it or ever will. Luckily, hopefully, but yeah. So today on the show, because the reason I bring that up. It's not just because I'm a big fan of CPR. I have a CPR, instruction map on my wall right now, and
okay,
yeah, and then I've got like 5 Resuscitation Annie dolls just hanging on the walls too. It's not creepy at all.
It actually sounds really creepy. Yeah. I like sitting there imagining what this would look like. I'm like, oh my god.
I've got a couple with their heads off that I've just got like mounted to the mounted to the wall like they're moose or a deer
like
or something. Yeah.
That's if you have to practice the breathing portion, you don't have to worry about constantly having the body. You can just go up to the wall. It's terrible.
No. I'm not creepy. No, anyways. Today on the show we are covering another very special episode of an 80s sitcom. This time it is the second season, episode 16 of Punky Brewster entitled Cherie Lifesaver.
Get it?
Cherie Lifesaver. Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
Because of the fruit, the Lifesaver.
Mm-hmm.
But because, they were shaped like an actual Lifesaver is like in the water.
Yes, because the
And
best
her
time
name is Cherie.
the best times to make a pun is when you're teaching kids how to save lives.
Yeah. And we'll see more of that too, because don't encourage that, because there's one person in particular that really loves jokes, even if they're not funny. And so don't add, to the fire there.
And so people that, may not know is that Punky Brewster was a show on NBC that ran from 1984 until 1988. It originally was on after 2 years. It was on NBC for 2 years, and then in 87 to 88, it ran in syndication, which people may not know. Syndication is where a show will be sold to local channels. Like usually back in the day, it was like Fox channels on the weekends and stuff. So, and they would air the show usually like in the afternoon with like Charles in Charge and Baywatch and stuff like that. So yeah, the show is basically about a girl whose mom is a piece of shit that leaves her in a grocery store, and she's basically living on the streets with her dog Brandon, and she discovers a vacant apartment in a local building, and the building is managed by this guy Henry Warnimont, and he's like an elderly widowed guy photographer who is like a grouch, but Punky warms his heart and he takes her in and adopts her, and yay. And so this was the time when television shows were all about kids not living in normal families, which I mean it's fine. It's like you had things like Webster and Different Strokes and stuff all at this time, where people are just living. This one they didn't go for the interracial family thing, but so.
Also, Mr. Belvedere, that's another one.
No, Mr. Belvedere was the family was there. It was just he was just a nanny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had their parents, so yeah. But this episode is a very famous episode of the show.
Mm-hmm.
The show stars George Gaynes as Henry Warnimont, Soleil Moon Frye as Penelope Punky Brewster, Susie Garrett as Mrs. Johnson, Cherie Johnson as Cherie Johnson. Yes, they used her name. T.K. Carter, who you may know from Good Morning Miss Bliss, as Mike Fulton, their teacher. You have Casey Ellison as Alan Anderson, Amy Foster as Margaux Kramer. In this particular episode, you have the guest star Frank Bonner as Chester, a appliance salesman, and Elvin as a person at the appliance store. James Hampton as Elvin, I'm sorry. And then you also have Sandy as Brandon, the dog.
Of course. You gotta name the dog.
Yes. So what were your initial thoughts of this episode here?
Very interesting, sort of like nostalgia, but it was a little bit before my time because I was only like 3 when this episode came out. Yeah. So I didn't really watch Punky. In fact, this is a weird story. I thought that Punky Brewster was a show about like teenagers, like in high school.
Oh.
And until like when I was like 19 or something like that, because I was just like trying to impress people by like watching old shows, and I was like, oh yeah, I was a big fan of Punky Brewster or whatever. And then, like, I had no idea what the show was about. And I just thought it would be, like, a weird, obscure thing to tell people, like to just sort of, like, build up my weird cred of being, like, a weird person or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, I was, like, had no idea what it was about. And so much so that I wrote a song, and it had nothing to do with the show whatsoever. And it was just, like, people were just like, what are you talking? It's got nothing to do with it. That's just made up, like the theme of the show had nothing to do with the actual theme. It was just like a made-up imagination in my mind what I thought Punky Brewster was. I just imagined it was like a Saved by the Bell type of show,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Soleil Moon Frye was good friends with Mark Paul Gosselaar, and she did guest star on Saved by the Bell. So, yeah, there's a connection there.
Yeah, there you go.
But that was when she was a teenager. I used to watch the show when I was a kid. I clearly remember watching this episode. I'm about the same age as Punky, so it's, she's a little older than me, but not much. I remember when you're a little kid, you have a crush on the cute girl on TV, and she was the cute girl on TV.
Oh, okay.
So, it was like that. There was also there was a spin-off called cartoon show entitled It's Punky Brewster, which was about Punky, who also had a friend who was a leprechaun gopher. So yes, he was a gopher who was also a leprechaun, and his name his name was Glomer.
Okay, that's bizarre, but all right.
And I used to do an impersonation of him that made the cute girl that lived near my grandparents laugh every time I did it. So when I was a little kid,
doing it all the time.
Yeah. It was because basically, the way the Glomer would say is like, "Hello, Punky friend."
Oh my God,
that's how he sounded.
Hilarious.
"Hello, Punky friend." He was, and he was voiced by Frank Welker, the voice of Fred on Scooby-Doo, and the current voice of Scooby-Doo, as well as the original voice of Megatron, and the voice of like everything in our childhood.
Megatron.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. What about, he sounds familiar too to the dude from He-Man. Is that the same guy?
No, I don't think Frank Welker was involved with He-Man. But
so it's not Orko. It's not the same voice of Orko.
No, Orko was voiced by the creator of He-Man, of the animated show, that one of the producers of the show. He just basically took his regular voice and they sped it up in an audio process.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So eventually I would like to cover an episode of It's Punky Brewster, but we'll get to that eventually. So, what happens in this episode here, Sesame?
Oh boy. So the Henry's refrigerator's screwing up real bad, and he doesn't want to get rid of it because he bought it a long time ago. But eventually it just goes boom, black smoke comes up, rattles a whole bunch. Gotta go buy a new fridge. It's the way it is,
So as I have here in my notes is that the refrigerator both overfreezes and catches on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
So as Katy Perry would tell the fridge, you're hot and you're cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you're yes and you're no, and you're and you're and you're up and you're down. Yeah. So he's got to go buy a new fridge. Punky, pets her dog Brandon, not Joe Biden, but Brandon, and then she.
I wonder if this Brandon would have been a better. Been taking better care of the Middle East right now, and foreign relations and stuff. But anyways,
maybe it's possible. I don't know. So she says goodbye to Brandon. I think she kissed his head, which is a kind of reverse a little bit. But then she goes off to school. Excuse me, and then they have CPR lessons by a teacher named Mike, who they all address as Mike, and I had some feelings about that. That's put those aside for a little bit, but
okay.
And then you got your, it's just like I understand like the cool teacher thing, call you by your first thing. I don't know. Sometimes,
I think it's a little bit too much. Yeah, especially
when you're little kids. That's not like when you're in high school and college. Maybe that's a little bit different. But like when you got little kids, that's the age they kind of need to have like authority figures like that, like your friend or whatever. But that's
I guess it depends. Like my dad, his whole life never called his parents mom and dad.
Oh, okay.
He always referred to them as Emmett and Ellie. So
okay, well,
and they were completely fine with it. So who knows?
Okay, well, to each their own, I guess. I guess it happens. But and so you got this piece of shit student named Alan, who's the class clown. And he tells the most stupid jokes possible that everyone seems to think are the funniest thing they've ever heard. Granted, they're like all 7 or 8 years old, so I guess at that point in life, maybe it was the funniest thing they've ever heard, It's like trying chicken nuggets for the first time. You think it's the greatest thing ever, But
I remember being alive in the 80s and having a better sense of humor than these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alan is lucky in the sense that he has a an audience that's easily entertained, like a monkey with a banana or some shit like that. I don't know. But like, and they're all laughing, thinking it's the greatest thing ever. And then Mike, the teacher, keeps trying to teach them CPR, and Alan keeps derailing very, very important lesson that's a literal lifesaver. And so eventually he gives him about 3 or 4 chances to shut the fuck up. He doesn't do so. So Mike sends him to the principal's office.
I was really surprised when on NBC they just had him say, "Shut the fuck up, Alan."
Yeah, he's like, "Shut the fuck up, Alan. Go to the principal's office now." And he starts complaining about, "Oh, well, they're going to make me do eraser duty forever." So then he gives him an eraser. He's like, "Okay, then get to it." And then he
he gives him the eraser and he says, "Why don't you take this and beat it?"
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
Which was funnier than anything Alan said. So. Because
it was
the beat the eraser. Yeah,
Mike is a comedian on is like a side gig after school. And so he teaches he has Punky and Margaux basically act as like a team to do the resuscitate this Annie, this not mannequin, but whatever you call it,
doll,
dummy or doll, yeah. And it's got like a machine kind of hooked up to its body to like let you know if you're doing it correctly or whatever. I'm not sure how it registers that, but it does.
I think it registers your breath and the movement of your
heart thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so they passed it. Punky did the breath work, and then Margaux was doing the heart pumping.
Yeah.
And so, yay, it turns out that you can have fun and learn things at the same time. Alan, of course, does not understand this nuance.
But we do learn that CPR is not fun.
Well, it's obvious because you're doing it in a life-saving situation. Yes. So I would imagine it wouldn't be fun unless you're like the weirdest person ever who's like, unless you're like corny, from the Stranger Danger / Face Your Fear / where Corny is entertained by everything. He thinks flossing his teeth is fun and makes random screams and shouts in the middle of a classroom. Dental floss. So, I guess.
I don't think there's too many people out there that are just going around being like, I wonder if I can perform CPR today. That'll be the greatest day ever.
It's like, yes, bonus points if they survive, type of thing or whatever. And it's just like, okay, whoa, dude. And so, predictably, we're going to find out that this CPR is going to be needed in the episode at some point. Yes. And they're doing, I'll stop in a minute, but I just want to make one point I think is relevant to this entire episode. And I think that pretty much everything could have been avoided if this thing happened. So they're playing hide and seek outside the apartment complex, and Cherie can't find a place, so she hides in the old refrigerator.
Do you have dreams that you want to achieve but are scared to do so due to self-doubt, fear, and other people's criticism? I have just what you need. You need a dose of the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, where I interview guests that will motivate and inspire you to stop at nothing to achieve your dreams. And always remember, if you believe, you can achieve.
The Living the Dream with Curveball podcast is available on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, everybody. Why don't you give the old Black Lincoln Collective podcast a listen? We're funny, we're fat, and we're here 24/7 at blcpodcast.com. Anytime you want to listen, anywhere, all your favorite podcast apps. Of course, we have a YouTube channel where you can stream live with the show. Check out our shorts. We're funnier the less you hear of us. That's been a Black Lincoln Collective podcast at blcpodcast.com.
Oh, that's the other thing. So Henry pretty much gets swindled at the appliance store.
He's being sold a new fridge by Herb from WKRP, and and then there's like some yokel sounding partner who comes up and he's got money and he's just like he's offering to buy the appliance, the fridge right away. And he's just like, I've got the money right here. And then he says, this is the last one. And so Henry buys it because he was there first, which is a complete, I'm sure he has like 20 or so in the back room, but yeah.
It's a basic confidence scam. Like one of the easiest ones to do. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like when you got the people at the county, at like the fair where you do the thing to win the big stuffed animal, and then you show a guy who's just like walking behind holding this huge stuffed animal to make it look like, oh, this person won the huge bear, even though he's working directly with the carny dude who's doing that plus, event or whatever.
Plus it's the manufactured supply and demand scheme too, like where it's basically saying that it's not that we're scarcity sort of thing, a scarcity model where you got basically only one left. Yeah
So he gets swindled, even though the refrigerator is pretty nice that he bought. So whatever, it's a nice fridge, and nice square ice cubes, really really cool. And so Cherie goes into the fridge, and what I don't understand about this, okay, so eventually Alan doesn't catch anyone because, again, in addition to being a piece of shit and it's not funny, he's also terrible at hide and seek, right? So and they're done with the game. They talk for a good 2 minutes, it seems like. Cherie doesn't say a word the entire time. She knows the game is over because they're talking about it. And then they all go inside. And as soon as everyone leaves, that's when she starts asking for help.
Well, maybe she couldn't hear that. Maybe she couldn't hear inside. I don't know. But you would assume, since we could hear her from the outside too. But
that's what I said. You could hear her from the outside, and I mean, I doubt a contraption like that would be so soundproof that being 2 feet away from it, or even like a few inches away from it, you wouldn't be able to.
Well, why don't we take a break? I'm just joking. And you can go and get in your refrigerator and tell me. Yeah. Tell me if your parents can hear you on the outside of it or something.
Well, the thing is too is that it was, I don't know. It just seemed like it was convenient for the episode to do. Well, yeah, because
and it was also convenient that it started snowing, so Henry says, "Oh, I'll take the door off of the refrigerator later." Like the snow is going to somehow stop you from doing that.
No, he just didn't want to be out in the cold is what it was. Yeah, and then he's just like, oh, who cares, and whatever. So the second everyone leaves, that's when she decides to finally talk, because whatever. And then obviously no one can hear her because, everyone's inside drinking hot cocoa and whatnot or whatever. And then what else happens? What happens after that? I'm gonna now pass the baton to you.
Okay, so basically, so Punky and Margaux tell Henry and Betty that that's Mrs. Johnson, Betty, that's Cherie's grandmother, to help them look for Cherie, who hasn't been found in the hide and seek game. And okay, here's a note that I have in my notes for this. This, my friends, is why kids should never play games. I think kids should just be obedient and sit inside and do nothing.
Yep. Don't want to play a game.
No, because you could play a video game, but you're probably going to get abducted by somebody on the internet. And if you
just be an adult and be an adult as soon as you're a kid. It reminds me.
You should just sit around in your kitchen and drink coffee all day. That's all you should do. Yep.
Drink coffee at the age of 7 or 8. Yes, that's the lesson we're teaching right now. It reminds me of this video game website I play that has a bunch of old classic games, and it's like the website's like in the Czech Republic, so I probably have like a million viruses playing it. But like anyway, and it's got a quote, and it's got like a wizard looking dude next to the quote, and it says something like, "People don't, we don't, how is it? We don't, shoot, what was it? Like, we don't get old because we stop playing." I don't know. I was fucking up the quote. Whatever. Basically saying like we get old because we stop playing games, essentially, or something like that. I don't know. I'm fucking up the quote. But, like, I don't know. I've read the quote like a million times, so I can't remember it now. But
it's okay. But I guess you are getting old because you can't remember it.
I can't remember the exact quote. Exactly. I've read this. I go on this website like 5 times a week, I think, or something like that, to play Rad Racer, which is a great game. I love Rad Racer. and try to play Karate Kid on NES. Can never fucking beat that game. Piece of shit.
Here's what happens next. Henry and Alan are shocked to find that Cherie is trapped inside of the old refrigerator. They hear her, and so they let her out, and Henry's like, you learned CPR in class, Alan, help save her.
Right, exactly.
And Alan didn't know how to do it because he, Mike sent him out of the class because he was being a dumbass. And so they send him to go call the paramedics. Hopefully he knows how to use a phone. He went to go get Betty as well. And while Punky and then Punky and Margaux come out and they administer CPR to Cherie, which is lucky that they just learned it this week in school, because,
yeah, exactly.
It's always great when something you learn in school comes in handy like that week. I mean, I remember when I learned about the War of 1812, and then the next day I had to fight in a war. Oh, wait, no.
He had to fight the British like the next day.
Yes, it was insane. And I was like, is this the War of 1812? And somebody's like, no, man, it's 1993. And I'm like, oh, shit.
But we have the muskets and everything now,
yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to use it because I didn't pay attention in class.
Exactly. They taught you how to shoot a musket in class. What kind of school was this?
Didn't they teach you that in your school?
No, they're like, here's how the bayonet goes in. We're gonna do a demonstration on Resuscit Annie here.
I mean, just each war we talked about, we learned how to use more updated weapons from each one.
Yeah,
we started out using bows and arrows in class, and then I lost a lot of good classmates that way. It was like,
all right, we're gonna teach about the Russian Revolution now. So there's this guy named Kalishnikov who invented the AK-47.
Yes,
and we're talking about Molotov, so be really careful with this one, okay?
And that's how Bob died in my class. Oh wait, anyway, so
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, so they managed to successfully revive Cherie, and Alan is like devastated that he was unable to help, and he's like, saying, oh, she could have died because of me, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
yeah, making it all about himself. Sorry.
He's overreacting, in my opinion. But I mean, I guess
he's also a sociopath and a narcissist in addition to being the class clown, which tracks, I guess, because of wanting attention and stuff like that would go hand in hand with being a narcissist. So.
And he grew up to be Donald Trump. It's really weird. But so they revive her. And like I said, Alan is a bit dramatic, but he does, it does teach kids that are watching the lessons that they should listen to their teachers, even if they are insisting you call them by their first names.
Yeah.
So Henry tells, Alan not to blame himself and suggests the two of them learn CPR together. Which, I want to see that class.
Yeah, that would be a good like buddy cop, not cop, but like a buddy film of like both of them just failing like over and over. They got to take the test like 18 times before they finally pass it. The name of the
movie is Henry and Alan Learn CPR.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's just like a huge string of bodies that have died because they failed so many times. Like they've had so many opportunities to save someone's life, they just can't do it.
Just randomly everywhere they go, somebody's dying, and they could have saved their lives, and they can't.
Exactly, but they can't. It took them so many times to finally pass the test. So good job.
Having they basically they've kind of learned it by watching the girls and just save Cherie's life. Henry also explained that that he should have taken the fridge door off in the beginning before this tragedy happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's all Henry's fault, and
it is. Plus, too, though, you could probably still open a fridge without the handle. I mean, I've done that.
Well,
sometimes
it was an older fridge at that time. They actually had a mechanism where they would lock and you couldn't get out from the inside. Okay. Sometimes, that's something they updated. I don't know, how old Henry's fridge was, but it might have been something like that. But I mean, then again, I did see Indiana Jones hide in her fridge to save himself from a nuclear blast, and
exactly. So. Yeah.
So I don't believe either one of those things are true.
You don't need bomb shelters. You can just use a refrigerator. It's fine.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. People are going to come home one day and you're going to be in your fridge, Matt, and people are like, why? And it's like, oh, I heard that they're going to attack us soon and I just needed to save myself.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out if she's okay while the paramedics are on the way, and Cherie says that she's feeling hungry, so Punky thinks she's going to be just fine.
Yay! Because she's hungry.
Our credits. And okay, my last lesson here, I really hope that kids who see this actually go and take CPR lessons and don't think that they can go off and save people just by watching a TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think there's more to it, and I mean, it does give the basics pretty well and everything, but I don't know if it's enough to make you completely confident to save somebody's lives, but it's probably enough to actually do it, I guess, so who knows? I don't know. I tell you what, next time we're together, I'm going to choke.
Don't.
And then you're going to save my life. Okay. And then we'll let the kids know if Punky Brewster really taught us how.
Dude, that's the Heimlich maneuver. It's different. But
well, I'm going to choke to the point where my heart stops beating.
Okay. All right.
Or better yet, we'll get an old refrigerator, and I'll get inside of it.
Yeah.
I'll stay in there for, I don't know how long Cherie was in there. It seems like probably about 20 minutes or longer. And then you pull me out of there. I mean, if I die, it's all for the good of the podcast.
Yeah, it is.
So, that's why I'm never going to get together with you again.
Sure.
Because I'm going to be afraid that I'm going to have to end up in a fridge.
Okay.
So
you don't have to do that. It's not like that's a requirement, but
I need to do research for the podcast.
Yeah, let's do that thing where it's like if you subscribe to our Patreon, one of us will go in there and see how long we can stay in there before passing out.
I don't know much about the law, but I think there's something that would say that, possibly endangering the lives of one of our co-hosts is not something that Patreon would allow us to put up as a perk.
we'd have to like sign up for like another one like Ko-Fi or Locals or some bullshit or whatever, which are like basically hand-me-downs Patreon.
Okay. Yeah. I still think it would probably be some kind of wire fraud or something. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. So final question here for you. Do you think that this episode made its point?
Yeah. I think reasonably well. It was pretty straightforward. There wasn't too much goofing around besides Alan, but I just mean in general, it wasn't really a distraction or distracting from the main point. Sometimes shows could kind of get a little too far ahead and trying to entertain people and kind of forget, burying the lead a little bit. Of, like,
you can't take away all the humor from a sitcom. I mean, even in the other ones that we watched, the other very special episodes, the Family Ties and Boy Meets World, they still had humor in them. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought it and it probably has taught people how to save lives. I don't know if, CPR is still the same. I'm assuming it hasn't been updated too much.
No, I think it's like a little bit faster, the heart thing pumping, because I saw a thing recently on the news when they were talking about it, and they said to kind of interesting to do it to the beat of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, which is funny because you're literally trying to.
Well, they had that in that Office episode.
They did that too? Okay.
Yeah, there's an episode of The Office. It's the same one where Dwight cuts off the face of the resuscitation Annie doll and then puts it on his face like he's Hannibal Lecter or something.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
Wow.
The woman teaching them CPR tells them to do it to the beat of Staying Alive.
Yeah, and Margaux was going a little bit slower than that, so that's like that part's been updated, but I think everything else probably is the same.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully nobody will ever have to use CPR that's listening to this, but I guess this is a good, good lesson that you should pay attention if you ever do have a CPR class, whether you're a little shit like Alan or you're an adult, so yeah.
And also too, so this episode was like a twofer though too, because it also talked about not getting inside refrigerators as well. So
yes,
or going and trapping yourself into objects.
Yeah, when you're playing hide and seek, you should never hide. That's what I've learned.
Well, no, you should hide. Just hide somewhere stuck. Like
okay.
Refrigerator, for example. I think G.I. Joe did the same thing with the refrigerator.
Did they? I'm sure.
One of their end portions where they do like a life lesson or whatever.
Oh yeah, they probably did. Learning's half the battle. G.I. Joe.
But it's all right. I mean, it's probably not a show I'll rewatch or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's like
dated,
quote unquote kids show, and it's not, but it's not a kids show that I myself grew up watching. So it's not like it's not like, for example, like I'd rewatch, Boy Meets World a little bit. Even then, I didn't really watch it religiously, but I watched it enough to like remember, like, oh, that was kind of cool when I was watching that show back when it came out or whatever. Or like Saved by the Bell, for example.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to, speaking of Saved by the Bell, Peacock had a reboot of that didn't really last that long. It lasted 2 years. But they also had a Punky Brewster reboot. That lasted only one season. It was kind of interesting. I mean, it was decent. It was about Punky raising some kids, and then this girl comes in that's kind of like a, Punky 2.0, who she is like takes in as a foster kid. Yeah, it was.
Get it?
Yeah, I actually liked it. It was decent, but it, most things nowadays, the problem I think with streamers is that they never give shows a chance. Television in general never gives shows a chance anymore.
No, it doesn't.
There's a lot of shows that never would have made it if today's standards were held to it, like Seinfeld or other shows that lasted a long time that were horrible ratings-wise in their first season. And nowadays, a show has one bad week and it's like, okay, bye-bye. Any final thoughts here before we wrap things up?
Nope. Just be careful. Don't let your kids hide inside refrigerators. Learn CPR. Teach your children named Alan to not always be a class clown all the time and take things seriously. If you're a teacher, don't let your students call you by your first name all the time.
Folks, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out all2real2.com. Check out our TeePublic, our Patreon, all of our social media. You can find this show anywhere you find shows. Be sure to subscribe, share the show, and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can, like Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever they allow ratings of any kind, Just, give us a 5-star review on the street. Just walk up to random people and be like, All Too Real 2 deserves a 5-star rating. Yeah. And then they can look at you weird.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Don't go into a refrigerator to give us a review because that'd be weird. Yeah, because I don't know why you would. Basically, that's about it. And remember, folks, that I love you. Alan's a little shit. Don't get in a refrigerator, ever, regardless of your age.
Yeah.
Sesame loves you. And until next time, folks, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.